And whatever happens, roll with it.
Preparing to live stream the meeting.
Oh, yes, I see that.
Hello.
We're live. Hello, everybody.
Okay, so now I'm coming back here. Got it. We are live streaming, folks.
I think we are. It says live and red up in the corner.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Friday Night Footlights. Tonight we are offering you a fabulous play, Liaisons, Dangereuses. New Ambassadors is a 501c3 company of actors, writers, playwrights. And we get together a couple of times a month and do a lab so we can look at the playwright's work and develop it. And we've got something streaming now called Blurring Boundaries, which streams through September 30th. So please check that out. But without further ado, let me introduce tonight's curator of Liaisons Dangereuses, Miss Elizabeth Jasicki. Liz.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Mark. I am Elizabeth Jasicki. I've curated this production and gathered this fabulous cast together. I am playing the Marquise de Merteuil, and I'm going to introduce my cast to you. There is Todd Butera. Hello.
Hi, Todd Butera. I am playing the Vicomte de Valmont.
There is Mandy Murphy.
Hi, I'm Mandy Murphy, and I am playing Madame de Tovel.
There is Carla Briscoe.
Hi, I'm Carla Briscoe, and I'm playing Madame Volange.
There is Maggie Horan.
Hi, I'm Maggie Horan, and I'm playing Cecile.
There is Caroline Seff.
Hi, I'm Caroline Seif, and I'm playing Madame de Rosamond.
There is Luke Hoffmeyer.
Hello, I'm Luke Hoffmeyer, and I am playing Donsony.
There is Jasmine Spees.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Spees, and I'm playing Emily.
And there is Colby Clark.
Hello, I am Colby Clark, and I am playing the fabulous part of Aslan.
And we have the wonderful Mark Hoffmeyer reading
Stage
our directions. So,
yes, indeed.
Everybody ready? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Over to Mark. Everyone's cameras off.
Liaisons Dangereuses, a play by Christopher Hampton, based on the novel by Leclos. Act 1, Scene 1. A warm evening in August. The principal salon in the Paris hotel of Madame la Marquise de Merteuil. The Marquise, a respectable widow of considerable means, is playing piquet with her cousin, Madame de Volange, who is herself a widow. Sitting next to Madame de Volange, watching her play, is her daughter Cecile, a slim and attractive girl. Suggestions of great opulence. Merteuil interrupts the game to examine Cecile with some care.
Well, my dear, so you've left the convent for good.
Yes, Madame.
And how are you adapting to the outside world?
Very well, I think. I'm so excited to have my own bedroom and dressing room.
I've advised her to watch and learn and be quiet except when spoken to. She's very naturally still prone to confusion. Yesterday, she was under the impression my shoemaker had come for dinner.
It wasn't that, Maman. It was when he fell to his knees and caught hold of my foot. It startled me.
No doubt you thought he was attempting to propose marriage. Never mind, my dear. You'll soon get used to it. We must see what we can devise for your amusement.
The game resumes. Merteuil's majordomo appears, advances unhurriedly across the room, and murmurs something in Merteuil's ear.
Oh, very well. Show him up.
The majordomo bows and withdraws.
Valmont is here.
You receive him, do you?
Yes, so do you.
I thought perhaps under the circumstances.
Under what circumstances? I don't believe I have any grounds for self-reproach.
On the contrary, as far as I know, you're virtually unique in that respect.
And, of course, if I had, he would no longer be calling on me.
Monsieur le Vicomte de Valmont, my child, whom you very probably don't remember, except that he is conspicuously charming, never opens his mouth without first calculating what damage he can do.
Then why do you receive him, Mama?
Everyone receives him. He has a distinguished name, a large fortune, and a very pleasant manner. You'll soon find that society is riddled with such inconsistencies. We're all aware of them, we all deplore them, and in the end, we all accommodate to them. Besides which, people are quite rightly afraid to provoke his malice. No one has the slightest respect for him, but everyone is very nice to him.
Le Vicomte de Valmont, a strikingly elegant figure, crosses the room and bows formally to Nectaire, in a gesture which also takes in the others.
Madame?
Vicomte?
What a pleasant surprise.
How delightful to see you, Madame.
You remember my daughter, Cecile?
Well, yes, but who could have foretold she would flower so gracefully? I wanted to call on you before leaving the city.
Oh, I'm not sure we can allow that. Why would you want to leave?
Paris in August, you know. And it's time I paid a visit on my old aunt. I've neglected her disgracefully.
I approve of your aunt. She takes such an intelligent interest in the young. She's been able to maintain a kind of youthfulness of her own. All the same.
Please give Madame de Rosemonde our warmest regards. She's been good enough to invite us to stay at the chateau, and I hope perhaps later in the season.
I shall make a point of it, Madame. Please don't let me interrupt your game.
I think I may have lost enough for the evening.
In the ensuing silence, they become aware that Cecile is fast asleep.
Your daughter evidently finds our conversation intriguing.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think it's time we took you home.
I'm used to being asleep by 9 at the convent.
So I should hope.
Madame de Volanges and Cecile leave the room. Valmont and Nectaire are alone together and look at each other for a while.
Your aunt?
That's right.
Whatever for? I thought she'd already made your arrangements to leave you all her money.
She has, but there are other considerations, family obligations, that kind of thing.
Do you know why I summoned you here this evening?
I'd hoped it might be for the pleasure of my company.
I need you to carry out a heroic enterprise. Something for your memoirs.
I don't know when I shall ever find the time to write my memoirs.
Then I'll write them. You remember Gercourt, when Gercourt left me?
Yes.
And went off with that fat mistress of yours whose name escapes me.
Yes.
No one has ever done that to me before. Or to you, I imagine.
I was quite relieved to be rid of her, frankly.
No, you weren't. One of Gercourt's more crass and boring topics of conversation was what exactly he would look for in a wife. What qualities, when the moment came for him, as he put it, to settle down.
Yes?
Yeah, he had a ludicrous theory that convent girls were inherently more modest and respectable than any other species of girl. And he was also unshakably prejudiced in favor of convent education. And now he's found the ideal candidate.
Cecile Volanges.
Very good.
And at 60,000 a year, that must have played some part in his calculations.
I tell you, if she were an uncloistered brunette, she could be worth twice that, and they wouldn't go near her. His priority, you see, is a guaranteed virtue.
I wonder if I'm beginning to guess what it is you're intending to propose.
Gercourt is with his regiment in Corsica until October. That should give you plenty of time.
You mean to?
She's a rosebud.
You think so?
And he'd get back from honeymoon to find himself the laughingstock of Paris.
Well.
Yes. Love and Revenge. 2 of your favorites.
No, I can't.
What?
You know how difficult it is I find to disobey your orders, but really I can't.
Why not?
It's too easy. It is. What is she, 15? She's seen nothing. She knows nothing. She's bound to be curious. She'd be on her back before you'd unwrap the first bunch of flowers. Any one of a dozen men could manage it. I have my reputation to think of.
I think you underestimate her. She's very pretty, and she has a rather promising air of languor.
You mean she falls asleep a lot? Well, perhaps your Belroche is the man for her.
Belroche is an idealist.
Oh, bad luck. I knew there was something the matter with him.
There is someone who's already fallen for her. Young Danceny. He goes round to sing duets with her.
And you think they'd like to try a little close harmony?
Yes, but he's as timid and inexperienced as she is. We couldn't rely on him. So it'll just have to be you.
See, I hate to disappoint you.
I think you really are going to refuse me, aren't you?
I see I'm going to have to tell you everything.
Of course you are.
Yes, well, my trip to the country to visit my more or less immortal aunt, the fact of the matter is that it's a first step toward the most ambitious plan I've ever undertaken.
Well, go on.
You see, my aunt is not on her own just at the moment. She has a young friend staying with her, a Madame de Tourvel.
Yes?
She is my plan.
You can't mean it.
Why not? To seduce a woman famous for strict morals, religious fervor, and the happiness of her marriage, what could possibly be more prestigious?
I think there's something very degrading about having a husband for a rival. It's humiliating if you fail and commonplace if you succeed. Where is he, anyway?
He's presiding over some labyrinthian case in Burgundy, which I'm reliably informed will drag on for months.
Can't believe this. Apart from anything else, she's such a frump. Bodice up to her ears in case you might catch a glimpse of square inch of flesh.
You're right, clothes don't suit her.
How old is she?
22.
And she's been married?
2 years.
Oh, even if you succeed, you know what?
What?
All you'll get from her is what she gives her husband. I don't think you can hope for any actual pleasure. They never let themselves go, those people. If you ever make her heart beat faster, it won't be love, it'll be fear. I sometimes wonder about you, Vicomte. How could you make such a fool of yourself over a complete non-entity?
Take care now. You're speaking of the woman that
Yes?
I set my heart on. I haven't felt so strongly about anything since you and I were together.
And you're going to pass up this wonderful opportunity for revenge?
If I have to.
You don't have to. I won't tell anyone about this bizarre aberration of yours.
I think you'll have to wait until at least I've had her before I can allow you to insult her. And I can't agree with your theory about pleasure. You see, I have no intentions of breaking down her prejudices. I want her to believe in God and virtue and the sanctity of marriage and still not be able to stop herself. I want passion, in other words. Not the kind that we're used to, which is cold as it is superficial. I don't get much pleasure out of that anymore. No, I want the excitement of watching her betray everything that's most important to her. Surely you understand that. I thought betrayal was your favorite word.
No. Cruelty. I always think that has a sober or more nobler ring to it.
You're terrible. You're 100 times worse than I'll ever be. Since we started this little mission, you've made many more converts than I have. You make me feel like an amateur.
And so you are, really. You might as well just be in love.
Well, if love is not being able to think of anything else all day or dream of anyone else at night, then perhaps I am. That's why I must have it to recuse myself from this ridiculous position.
Love is something you use, not something you fall into like quicksand. Don't you remember? It's like medicine. You use it as a lubricant to nature.
How is Belroche?
Well, he is in love. I thought it might be time to end it last week. I tried to pick a quarrel, but he looked so woebegone I relented, and we spent the best night we've ever had. Since then, of course, he's been more assiduous than ever. But I'm keeping him at arm's length because I'm so pleased with him. He hasn't learned that excess is something you reserve for people you're about to leave.
So you're not about to leave him?
No, I told you, at the moment I'm very pleased with him.
And is he currently your only lover?
Yes.
I think you should take another. I think it most unhealthy, this exclusivity.
You're not jealous, are you?
Of course I am. Balrosh is completely undeserving.
I thought he was one of your closest friends.
Exactly, so now I know what I'm talking about. No, I think you should organize an infidelity with me, for example.
But we decided it was far more important to preserve our friendship and to be able to trust each other implicitly.
Are you sure that wasn't just a device to heighten our pleasure?
You refuse to grant me a single favor and then you expect to be indulged?
Only because it is so simple. It wouldn't feel like a conquest. I have to follow my destiny, you see. I have to be true to my profession.
Well, in that case, come back when you've succeeded with Madame de Tourvel.
Yes?
And I will offer you a reward.
My love.
But I shall require proof.
Certainly.
Written proof.
Ah.
Not negotiable.
Valmont rises to his feet and bows.
And I'm sure you'll find someone to help you out with that little Valanche.
She's so lovely. If my morals were less austere, I'd take it on myself.
You are an astonishing woman.
Thank you.
I'm only sorry you haven't sufficient confidence in me to give me my reward in advance.
Good night, Vicomte.
He kisses her hand, releases it, and stands looking at her for a moment before turning away. Scene 2. 3 weeks later, early evening. The principal salon in Madame de Rosemel's chateau in the country. Valmont is interviewing Assolan, his valet, a dapper young man, resplendent in livery.
So he grasped what was going on, did he?
Oh, yes, sir. I was watching him, and he was watching you.
I just hope he was better at understanding what was happening than when he was shadowing me. I sat down for the rest of the way, and he was trampling about some bush, making so much noise I had a good mind to give him a leg full of small shot. Except then I suppose you've had even more trouble keeping up.
He knew what you were doing, and after you'd gone, he walked up and talked to the family.
I must say the family was very well chosen.
Oh, well, thank you, sir.
Solidly respectable, gratifyingly tearful, no suspiciously pretty girls. Well done.
I do my best for you, sir.
Not even unduly expensive. 56 livres to save an entire family from ruin. That seems a genuine bargain.
Oh, these days, my lord, you can find a half dozen like that in any village in the country.
Really? I must say it's no longer a mystery to me why people fall so easily into the habit of charitable enterprises. All that humble gratitude, it was most affecting.
Certainly brought a tear to my eye, sir.
How are you getting on with the maid?
Oh, Julie? Tell you the truth, it's been a bit boring. If I wasn't so anxious to keep your lordship abreast, I think I'd only have bothered the once. I'm not sure she doesn't feel the same way, but, you know, what else is there to do in the country?
Yes, it wasn't so much the details of your intimacy I was after. It was whether she'd agreed to bring me Madame de Tourvel's letters. And do you think she'll keep her mouth shut?
She won't steal the letters, sir.
She won't?
You know better than me, sir. It's easy enough getting them to do what they want to do. It's getting them to do what you want them to do. And that's what gives you a headache.
And them as often as not.
And as for keeping her mouth shut, I haven't asked her to keep her mouth shut because that is the one thing most likely to give her the idea of opening it.
You might well be right. But look, Madame de Tourvel told me she'd been warned about me. That means some officious friend of hers has written to her about me. I need to know who.
I shouldn't worry about all that if I was you, sir. If she's interested enough to have you followed, I'd say it was only a matter of time.
Do you think so?
Anyway, apparently, she keeps her letters in her pockets.
I wish I knew how to pick pockets. Why don't our parents ever teach us anything really useful? Where do you and Julie meet?
Oh, in my room, sir.
And is she coming tonight?
Afraid so.
Then I think I may have to burst in on you, see if blackmail will succeed better than bribery. About 2 o'clock suit you? I don't want to embarrass you. Will that give you enough time?
Yeah, ample, sir.
Good.
Then you won't have to pay her, sir, will you?
Oh, I think if she delivers, we can afford a generous amount, don't you?
It's your money, sir.
Don't worry, I shan't overlook your contributions.
Well, that's very decent of you, sir.
Valmont looks up at the sound of approaching female voices.
Off you go, then. See you at 2.
Oh, right, sir. I'll be sure to arrange her so she can't say she's there to borrow a clothes brush.
He leaves by one door as Madame de Rosamond and Madame de Tourvel arrive by another. Madame de Rosamond is 84, arthritic but lively. Madame de Tourvel is a handsome woman of 22, dressed not as McToy described, but in an elegantly plain linen gown.
Here he is. I said he would be here.
Ladies?
Madame de Tourvel has some mystery to reveal to us.
To you, madam, to you.
Oh.
Well, then perhaps I should go for a walk.
No, it concerns you as well. I mean, it particularly concerns you. In fact, I must begin by asking you some questions.
Very well. Just let me help my aunt to her chair.
Oh, thank you, my boy.
Now.
Where did you go this morning, monsieur?
Well, as you know, I was up early to go out hunting.
And did you succeed in making a kill at this time?
No, I've had the most wretched luck ever since I arrived here. Also, I'm a terrible shot.
But on this occasion, Monsieur le Vicomte, what exactly was it you were hunting?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't quite follow.
You may as well own up, monsieur. I know where you were this morning.
I think it's time somebody explained to me what's going on.
Georges, my footman, just happened to be in the village earlier today.
I do hope you haven't been listening to servants' gossip.
I can see Monsieur de Valmont is determined not to tell you, so I shall have to. There's a family in the village. The man has been ill. He found himself unable to pay his taxes this year, so this morning the bailiff arrived to seize their few sticks of furniture, whereupon your nephew, whose valet had been making inquiries in the village to see if anyone was suffering from particular hardship, arrived, paid off the family's debts, and added a generous contribution to help them back on their feet again.
Is this true, my dear?
Well, yes.
Oh, you dear boy. Come and let me give you a hug.
They embrace. Then Valmont turns and advances towards Madame de Tourvel, smiling radiantly, his arms outstretched. A spasm of panic crosses her face, but she has no choice but to submit to the embrace. Valmont squeezes her powerfully. He releases her. Madame de Tourvel moves across to the tapestry frame and picks up the already threaded needle. But her hands are shaking so badly, she has to put it down again.
It's so like you to make a secret of something like that. We must visit this family in the morning, my dear, to see if we can help in any other way.
Yes, I'd like that.
Do sit down, Aunt.
Oh, no, I must try to find Monsieur le Curé. I shan't be long. I do want to tell him about this before he leaves. He'll be so pleased.
She bustles out of the room. Madame de Tourvel makes a renewed and determined effort to get to grips with her tapestry. Valmont finds a chair facing her, watches, and waits.
can't understand how someone whose instincts are so generous could lead such a dissolute life.
I'm afraid you have a rather exaggerated idea both of my generosity and of my depravity. If I knew who'd given you such a dire account of me, I might be able to defend myself. Since I don't, let me make a confession. I'm afraid the key to the paradox lies in a certain weakness of character.
I don't see how so thoughtful an act of charity could be described as weak.
This appalling reputation of mine, you see, there is some justification for it. I've spent my life surrounded by immoral people. I've allowed myself to be influenced by them and sometimes even taken pride in outshining them. Whereas in this case, I've simply fallen under quite an opposite kind of influence. Yours.
You mean you wouldn't have done it if...
Not without your example, no. It was by way of an innocent tribute to your goodness. You see how weak I am. I promised myself I was never going to tell you. It's just looking at you,
Monsieur.
You needn't worry. I have no illicit intentions. I wouldn't dream of insulting you. But I do love you. I adore you.
He's across the room in an instant, drops to one knee in front of her, and takes her hands in his.
Please help me.
Madame de Tourvel wrenches her hands free and bursts into tears.
What is it?
Oh, I'm so unhappy.
But why?
Oh, will you leave me now?
Valmont rises and moves away across the room.
I shouldn't have said anything. I know I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. But really, you have nothing to fear, nothing at all. Tell me what to do. Show me how to behave. I'll do anything you say.
I thought the least that I could hope for was that you would respect me.
But I do, of course I do.
Then forget all this. Don't say another word. You've offended me deeply. It's unforgivable.
I thought you might at least give me some credit for being honest.
On the contrary, this confirms everything I've been told about you. I'm beginning to think you may have well planned the whole exercise.
Well, when I came to visit my aunt, I had no idea you were here. Not that it would have disturbed me in the slightest had I known. You see, up until then, I'd only ever experienced desire. Love, never.
That's enough.
No. You made an accusation. You must allow me the opportunity to defend myself. Now, you were there when my aunt asked me to stay a little longer, and at that time I only agreed in deference to her, although I already by no means was unaware of your beauty.
Monsieur.
No, the point is this. All this has nothing to do with your beauty. As I got to know you, I began to realize that beauty was the least of your qualities. I became fascinated by your goodness. I was drawn in by it. I don't understand what was happening to me. And it was only when I began to feel actual physical pain every time you left the room that it finally dawned on me. I was in love for the first time in my life. I knew it was hopeless, of course, but that didn't matter to me because it wasn't like it had always been. It wasn't at all that I just wanted to have you, no. All I wanted was to deserve you.
Madame de Tourvel rises decisively to her feet.
I really will have to leave you, monsieur. You seem determined to persist with a line of argument you must know I ought not to listen to and don't want to hear.
No, please sit down. I've already told you I'll do anything you say.
There's only one thing I would like you to do for me.
What? What is it?
But I don't see how I can ask you. I'm not even sure if I want to put myself in the position of being beholden to you.
Oh, please, no. I insist. If you're good enough to give me an opportunity to do something you want, anything, it's I who will be beholden to you.
Very well, then. I would like you to leave this house.
I don't see why that should be necessary.
Let's just say you've spent your life making it necessary.
Well, then, of course, whatever you say, I couldn't possibly refuse you. You will allow me to give my aunt, say, 24 hours notice?
Well, yes, naturally.
I shall find something in my mail tomorrow morning which obliges me to return to Paris at once.
Thank you. I'd be very grateful.
Perhaps I might be so bold as to ask a favor in return. I think it would only be just to let me know which one of your friends has blackened my name.
You know very well that's impossible, monsieur. If friends of mine have warned me against you, they've done so purely in my own interest. I could hardly reward them with betrayal, could I? I must say, you devalue your generous offer if you want to use it as a bargaining point.
Very well, I withdraw the request. I hope you won't think I'm bargaining if I ask for you to let me write to you.
Well,
and hope that you will do me the kindness of answering my letters.
I'm not sure correspondence with you is something a woman of honor could permit herself.
So you're determined to refuse all my suggestions, however respectable?
I didn't say that.
I really don't see how you could possibly be harmed by conceding me this very minor, but as far as I'm concerned, vitally important consolation.
I would welcome the chance to prove to you that what motivates me in this is not hatred or resentment, but...
But what?
For God's sake, monsieur, please, leave me alone.
I only want to say what I hardly thought it would be possible for me to say to you. And that's... goodbye.
He kisses her hand. She submits briefly. He releases her instantly, rises to his feet, and bows.
I'll write soon.
He hurries away into the darkness. Madame de Tourvel is left alone. Scene 3. A couple of days later, the middle of the night. A bedroom in a house on the outskirts of Paris which belongs to Emily, a courtesan. She's in bed with Valmont.
I thought the Dutch were supposed to be famous for their capacity for alcohol.
3 bottles of Burgundy and a bottle of cognac would finish anybody.
Did he drink that much?
You were pouring.
I hope you're not missing him.
Oh, don't be silly. I just don't think it was necessary to bundle him into your carriage.
Now, in that condition, I thought it best to send him back to his house.
This is his house.
Oh, I thought it was your house.
He owns it. I just live in it. And he's so rarely in France. Seems a shame.
Oh, well, I'm sure my coachman will use his imagination.
I'm sure, since you're perfectly aware of the position and have no doubt given him explicit instructions. He won't have to.
Explicit instructions?
Yes.
I must say, Emily, I do think it's the height of bad manners to talk about some foreigner when you're in bed with me. I think some appropriate punishment is called for. Turn over.
Oh, all right.
She does so.
Now, do you have pen, ink, and writing paper?
Yes, over by the bureau. Why?
Valmont gets out of bed, crosses the room, finds what he's looking for in the bureau, and brings it back to the bed. He puts down the pen and inkwell carefully, spreads a sheet of paper across the small of Emily's back, arranges himself comfortably, and reaches for the pen.
Now, don't move. My dear Madame de Tourvel, I have just come to my desk. Don't move, I said. In the middle of a stormy night during which I have been tossed from exaltation to exhaustion and back again. The position in which I find myself as I write has made me more than ever aware of the power of love. I can scarcely control myself sufficiently to put my thoughts in order. But despite these torments, I guarantee that at this moment I am far happier than you. I hope one day you may feel the kind of disturbance afflicting me now. Meanwhile, please excuse me while I take steps to calm what I can only describe as a mounting excitement.
He moves aside paper, pen, and inkwell and leans back to nuzzle Emily.
We'll finish it later, shall we?
Scene 4. 10 days later. A September afternoon, Valmont is taking tea with La Marquise de Merteuil in her grand salon.
It sounds to me as if you made a serious tactical error. Shouldn't you have taken Madame de Tourvel there and then on the chaise longue?
I was expecting my aunt and the curé to appear at any moment.
Well, it would have been the most interesting thing to happen to them for years.
No, it wasn't at all the moment. I want her to surrender, but not before she's put up a fight.
She seems to be. She's succeeding in getting rid of you altogether.
But I got her to agree to let me write to her.
Well, in the unlikely event of her defenses being pierced by your eloquence, you're not going to be there to take advantage of it, are you? And by the following day, they'll be back in full repair.
Naturally, writing to someone is a poor substitute, but since I really had no choice in the matter, at least I found a way to keep the thing alive.
Perhaps.
I know you're incurably skeptical, but for me, with a woman, this is by far the best stage. It's what men talk about all the time, but hardly ever experience, the real intoxication. You know, when she loves you, but you're still not quite certain of victory.
You know she loves you, then?
Oh, yes. I left my man there to keep an eye on things and a hand on the maid, who's been most cooperative since I caught them in bed together. And he tells me that when my first letter arrived, she took it in her room and sat turning it over for hours, sighing and weeping. So it seems a reasonable enough conclusion. And the maid helped us to another discovery, which might interest you.
Oh, yes?
Can you imagine who it was that kept writing to my beauty, warning her to steer clear of the world's vilest pervert, namely me? Your damned cousin, the Ballon bitch. Oh, it's all very well for you to laugh. She sent me back at least a month.
It's not that.
She wanted me away from Madame de Tourvel. Well, now I am, and I intend to make her suffer for it. Your plan to ruin her daughter, are you making any progress? Is there anything I can do to help? I am entirely at your disposal.
Well, as a matter of fact, my dear Vicomte, your presence here today forms part of my plan. I'm expecting Danceny at any moment, and I want you to help me stiffen his resolve, if that's the phrase. And then I've arranged a little scene I hope you may find entertaining. Yes, I'm sure you will.
Is that all you're going to say?
Yes, I think so.
Has Danceny not been a great success?
Oh, he's been disastrous. Like most intellectuals, he's intensely stupid. He really is a most incompetent boy. Charming, but hopeless.
You better bring me up to date.
Well, I've become extremely thick with little Cecile. We go to my box at the opera and chatter away all evening. I'm really quite jealous of whoever's in store for her. She has a certain innate duplicity, which is going to stand her in very good stead. She has no character and no morals. She's altogether delicious.
But what's happened?
She and Danceny are head over heels in love. It started when she asked me if it would be wrong for her to write to him. First I said yes, and later I said no. It would be all right as long as she showed me both sides of the correspondence. Yeah. Then I arranged a meeting, and Danceny was so paralyzed with chivalry, he didn't lay a finger on her. All his energies go into writing her poems of great ingenuity and minimum impact. I tried to ginger things up by telling her it was Gercourt her mother intended her to marry. She was shocked enough to discover He was a geriatric of 36. But by the time I'd finished describing him, she couldn't have hated him more if they'd been married 10 years. Then, the first major setback. She told her confessor, and he took a very strong line. So she severed relations with Danceny and spent all her time praying to be able to forget him, a pleasantly self-contradictory exercise. He remained abject throughout. The only thing I could do was to organize a rendezvous for them to say goodbye to one another and hope for the best. And after all that, what do I find? Danceny has managed to hold her hand for 5 seconds. And when asked to let it go, to Cecile's extreme annoyance, he does. You really have to put some backbone into him. Afterwards, the little one said to me, "Oh, madame, I wish you were Danceny." And do you know, just from it, I wished I was.
I often wonder how you managed to invent yourself.
I had no choice, did I? I'm a woman. Women are obliged to be far more skillful than men, because whoever wastes time cultivating inessential skills? You think you put as much ingenuity into winning us as we put into losing? Well, it's debatable, I suppose. But from then on, you hold every ace in the pack. You can ruin us whenever you fancy. All we can achieve by denouncing you is to enhance your prestige. We can't even get rid of you when we want to. We're compelled to unstitch painstakingly what you would just cut through. We either have to devise some way of making you want to leave us, so you'll feel too guilty to harm us, or find a reliable means of blackmail. Otherwise, you can destroy our reputation and our life with a few well-chosen words. So of course I had to invent, not only myself, but ways of escape no one else has ever thought of, not even I, because I had to be fast enough on my feet to know how to improvise. And I've succeeded, because I always knew I was born to dominate your sex and avenge my own.
Yes, but what I asked you was how.
When I came out into society, I'd already realized that the role I was condemned to, namely to keep quiet and do as I was told, gave me the perfect opportunity to listen and pay attention. Not to what people told me, which was naturally of no interest, but to whatever it was they were trying to hide. I practiced detachment. I learned how to smile pleasantly, while under the table I stuck a fork into the back of my hand. I became not merely impenetrable, but a virtuoso of deceit. Needless to say, at that stage, nobody told me anything, and it wasn't pleasure I was after, it was knowledge. But when, in the interests of furthering that knowledge, I told my confessor I'd done everything, his reaction was so appalled, I began to get a sense of how extreme pleasure might be. No sooner had I made this discovery than my mother announced my marriage. So I was able to contain my curiosity and arrived in Monsieur de Merctoy's arms a virgin. All in all, Merctoy gave me little cause for complaint. And the minute I began to find him something of a nuisance, he very tactfully died. I used my year of mourning to complete my studies. I consulted the strictest moralists to learn how to appear, philosophers to find out what to think, and novelists to see what I could get away with. And finally, I was well placed to perfect my techniques.
Describe them.
Only flirt with those you intend to refuse. Then you acquire a reputation for invincibility, while slipping safely away with the lover of your choice. A poor choice is less dangerous than an obvious choice. Never write letters. Get them to write letters. Always be sure they think they're the only one. Win or die.
These principles are infallible, are they?
When I want a man, I have him. When he wants to tell, he finds he can't. That's the whole story.
And was that our story?
I wanted you even before we'd met. My self-esteem demanded it. Then, when you began to pursue me, I wanted you so badly. It's the only one of my notions has ever got the better of me. Single combat.
Thank you.
He is about to say more, but is interrupted by the arrival of Mectoy's major domo, escorting the Chevalier d'Anceny, a knight of Malta, an eager and handsome young man of about 20. D'Anceny hurries over and bows to kiss Mectoy's hand.
Vicomte!
My dear young man, how good to see you again.
I'm so sorry to be late, madame.
Very nearly too late. As you know, Mademoiselle de Volanges.
It gives me such pleasure to hear her name spoken, madame.
Yes, quite. As I was saying, Mademoiselle de Volanges has done me the honor of making me her confidant and counselor in this matter, which concerns you both.
She could hardly have chosen more wisely.
Yes, well, be that as it may, I felt very strongly that in this situation, which is exceedingly delicate, you too might find it beneficial to be able to confide in someone sympathetic, a person of experience, and the Vicomte de Valmont, who is known to you as well as being an old friend of mine, and a man of unswerving discretion, seems to me an ideal candidate. And should you agree, he's very kindly consented to devote himself to your interests.
Well,
perhaps it is my reputation which is causing you to hesitate. If so, I think I can assure you that a man's own mistakes are not necessarily a guide to his faculty for objective judgment.
No, of course not. I certainly wouldn't have the impudence. No, it's... the fact is, this is not a conventional intrigue with the aim of, that's to say, my love and respect.
We're not dealing, you mean, with a frivolous coquette or a bored wife?
Precisely. A person like Mademoiselle de Volanges must be treated with the utmost consideration. And my own position has certain weaknesses, of which I'm only too bitterly aware. Her great fortune, for example, compared to my own precarious condition.
Naturally, there would be no excuse for trying to maneuver her into such a pass that she would be forced to marry you. That would be quite wrong.
You do understand how I feel.
Of course he does. What did I tell you?
You see, I'm quite happy with things as they are, as long as she consents to see me, to continue with the music lessons.
Ah, the music lessons.
The major domo reappears and crosses the room to murmur to Mectoy, and then he leaves.
In any case, I have absolutely no wish to press my attentions on you.
Oh, no, please.
But rest assured that I am honored to be at your disposal.
The honor, monsieur, is entirely mine, and any contact with you would be a privilege. Perhaps you would care to...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chevalier, but I'm afraid you must leave. Madame de Volanges has just been announced. You see now why I was concerned at your late arrival.
Maybe this would be a good opportunity for me to pay my respects and hope to...
I really think at this juncture, Monsieur d'Anceny, it would be prudent for you not to be found here. That is, if you want me to be of any effective assistance in the future.
Of course, whatever you think fit.
Goodbye, Chevalier. My man will show you to a side exit.
D'Anceny kisses her hand in hurried farewell. Valmont takes his arm as he crosses to the door.
I have to go to Versailles tomorrow. I don't know if you'd care to accompany me.
I'd like that very much.
Good. I'll send the carriage around for you at 9.
D'Anceny vanishes.
So, this is the scene you have planned for me.
If you'd care to go behind the screen.
I think you might have consulted me before offering my services as general factotum to that exasperating boy. I don't find lovers' complaints remotely entertaining outside of the opera.
I was sure that if anyone could help him.
Help? He doesn't need help. He needs hindrances. If he has to climb over enough of them, he might inadvertently fall on top of them.
I'll see what I can do. Now, Vicomte, the screen.
Are you sure I shouldn't confront her? Give her some evidence for those rude letters?
Quick!
Valmont moves swiftly and is only just behind the screen in time not to be seen by Madame de Volanges. Mectoy rises to greet her, kissing her on both cheeks.
Your note said it was urgent.
It's days now. I haven't been able to think about anything else. I couldn't decide what was to do for the best. Finally, I saw there was no escaping the fact. It was my plain duty to tell you. Please, sit down. As you know, in recent weeks, Cecile has been kind enough to accept my friendship and, I believe, bestow on me her own.
Yes, of course, she's devoted to you.
This is what makes this duty doubly difficult to perform.
This has something to do with Cecile.
I may be wrong. I pray heaven I am.
Go on.
I have reason to believe that how can I describe it? A dangerous liaison has sprung up between your daughter and the Chevalier d'Anceny.
No. That's completely absurd. Cecile is still a child. She understands nothing of these things, and Danceny is an entirely respectable young man.
If you were to be right, no one would be happier than I.
Naturally, they've never been together unchaperoned, generally by me and often by you.
Precisely. That's when I first formed the impression that something was passing between them, the way they looked at each other.
I'm sure it's merely their feeling for the music.
Perhaps so, but there was one other thing. Tell me, does Cecile have a great many correspondents?
She writes, I suppose, an average number of letters. Relatives, friends from the convent. Why?
I went into her room at the beginning of this week. I simply knocked and entered without waiting for a reply, and she was stuffing a letter into the third-hand drawer of her bureau, in which I couldn't help noticing there seemed to be a large number of similar letters.
I'm most grateful to you. I'll see myself out.
I hope you don't think me interfering.
Not at all.
And do I hope, if God forbid you do discover anything compromising, you won't tell Cecile it was I who was responsible. I would hate to forfeit her trust, and if there is to be a period of difficulty, I would like to think my advice might be of some use to her.
Of course.
Would you think it impertinent if I were to make another suggestion?
Oh, no.
If my recollection is correct, I overheard you saying to the Vicomte de Valmont that his aunt had invited you to stay at her chateau.
She has, yes, repeatedly.
A spell in the country might be the very thing until this all blows over.
If what you tell me has any truth in it, I may very well send her back to the convent.
Wouldn't it be better to threaten that as a punishment if there's any resumption of relations?
Perhaps. I can't believe you're right about this.
Oh, let's hope not.
Isn't the Vicomte staying there at the moment?
I understand he's returned to Paris.
She embraces Madame de Volanges warmly.
I expect I've imagined the whole thing, and tomorrow we'll all be able to laugh at my stupidity. If so, I hope you'll be able to forgive me.
My dear, I shall always be more than grateful for your concern.
She moves slowly out of the room. Because of her slow progress, Valmont emerges from behind the screen before she's disappeared. He can't resist making faces at her retreating back, causing Mectoy to hiss at him.
Shh. Stop it.
So, you understand I've returned to Paris?
Well, you asked for hindrances.
You're genuinely a wicked woman.
And you wanted a chance to make my cousin suffer.
I can't resist you.
I've made it easy for you.
But all of this is most inconvenient. The Comtesse de Beaulieu has invited me to stay.
Oh, well, you'll just have to put her off.
The Comtesse has promised me extensive use of her gardens. It seems her husband's fingers aren't as green as they once were.
Maybe not, but from what I hear, all his friends are gardeners.
Is that so?
You want your revenge. I want my revenge. I'm afraid there's really only one place you can go.
Back to Auntie, eh?
Back to Auntie, where you can also pursue that other matter. You have some evidence to procure, have you not?
Don't you think it would be a generous gesture, show a proper confidence in my abilities? I mean, to take that evidence for granted and...
I need it in writing, Vicomte. And now, you must leave.
Must I? Why?
Because I'm hungry.
Yes, I've quite an appetite myself.
Then go home and eat.
He crosses to her and lingeringly kisses her hand.
In writing.
Valmont smiles, turns, and strides away. Scene 5. A week later, after lunch. The salon in Madame de Rosamond's chateau. Madame de Tourvel is stretched out on the chaise longue. Cécile sits in the window working at her tapestry. Madame de Rosamond and Madame de Volanges sit at the card table, and only Valmont is on his feet, moving around the room.
You'll be pleased to hear, my dear, that Armand is on his feet again and back at work.
Who?
Monsieur Armand, you remember, whose family you helped so generously.
Oh, yes.
He comes and sits down, his eye fixed now on Madame de Tourvel. When she looks at him, he looks away for a few seconds at Cécile, and is gratified to notice, when he looks back at Madame de Tourvel, that she's still looking at him, although she looks away again the minute he catches her out.
We've been keeping an eye on things while you've been away. I must say, he never ceases to sing your praises. When my nephew was last staying here, we discovered quite by chance that he had been down to the village, and...
Valmont suddenly rises to his feet, still staring at Madame de Tourvel.
Are you feeling all right, Madame? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Aunt, but it seemed to me all of a sudden that Madame de Tourvel didn't look at all well.
No, I'm quite all right.
By now, Madame de Rosamond and Madame de Volanges are on their feet, hurrying towards Madame de Tourvel. As they bear down on her, Valmont turns towards Cécile, who's still sitting in the window, and deftly throws a letter into her lap. She's so amazed by this, she sits there for a moment, gaping, until she grasps the significance of Valmont's impatient gestures, tosses her tapestry aside, and stuffs the letter in her pocket.
You do look dreadfully pale, my dear.
I'm all right.
Perhaps you need some air. Do you feel constricted in any way?
No, really.
I feel sure Madame de Volanges is right as usual. A turn around the gardens, perhaps.
Yes, a little walk in the garden. It's not too cool, I think.
Well, perhaps.
Come along, my dear. We'll accompany you.
I'll be quite happy on my own.
You'll have to excuse me, ladies, but I think you're right to insist on chaperoning Madame.
Fresh air will do you the world of good.
The meal was somewhat heavy, perhaps.
Why, I don't believe that can be the case. Solange is an excellent cook.
Cécile has gathered up her shawl and made to follow the others. As she's spreading it across her shoulders, however, she's startled to find it tugged away from her by Valmont, who drops it on a chair.
Come back for it.
She follows the still clucking ladies. Presently, Cécile reappears. Valmont picks up her shawl and strides toward her.
I don't want to arouse suspicion, mademoiselle, so I must be brief, and I must ask you to pay close attention to what I say. As you no doubt have guessed, the letter I gave you is from our friend the Chevalier d'Ancenis.
Yes, I thought so, monsieur.
And as I'm sure you're also aware, the handing over of such letters is a far from easy matter to accomplish. I can't very well expect to be creating a diversion every day.
And Maman has taken away my paper and pens.
Right, now listen carefully. There are two large cupboards in the antechamber next to your room. In the left-hand cupboard, you will find a supply of paper, pens, and ink.
Oh, thank you.
I suggest you return the Chevalier's letters to me when you have read them for safekeeping.
Must I?
It would be wise.
Valmont produces a key.
Now, this key resembles the key in your bedroom, which I happen to know is kept in your mother's room on the mantelpiece tied with a blue ribbon. Take it, attach the blue ribbon to it, and put it in place of your bedroom key, which you will then bring to me. I will be able to get a copy cut within 2 hours. I'll return you the original, and you can put it back in your mother's room. Then I'll be able to collect your letters and deliver Dunsany's without any complications.
He hands the key to Cecile.
Oh, and on the shelf below the writing paper, you will find feather and a small bottle of oil so that you can oil the lock on the hinges to your bedroom door.
Are you sure, monsieur? I'm not sure it would be right.
How else are we going to manage this? Your mother never lets you out of her sight. You really must trust me, my dear.
Well, I know Monsieur Danceny has every confidence in you.
Believe me, mademoiselle, if there's one thing I can't abide, it's deceitfulness. It's only my very warm friendship for Danceny which you would ever make me consider such methods. And now, I suggest you rejoin your mamma and the others before they send out a search party.
Yes, monsieur. Thank you, monsieur.
She hurries back into the garden with her shawl.
My pleasure.
He moves over to an armchair and sinks into it. The lights change. It's early evening now. Valmont, reading, looks up as Madame de Tourvel comes into the room.
I trust you're feeling a little better, madame?
If I had felt ill, monsieur, it would not be difficult to guess who was responsible.
You can't mean me, do you?
You promised to leave here.
And I did.
Then how can you be insensitive enough to return uninvited and without warning?
I find myself obliged to attend to some great urgent business in the area in which, moreover, my aunt is crucially involved.
I only hope it can be dealt with promptly.
As the conversation continues, Valmont contrives, imperceptibly, to maneuver himself between her and the door.
Why are you so angry with me?
I'm not angry. Although, since you gave me a solemn undertaking not to offend me when you wrote, and then in your very first letter spoke of nothing but the disorders of love, I am certainly entitled to be.
I was away almost 3 weeks and wrote to you only 3 times. Since I was quite unable to think about anything but you, some might say I showed heroic restraint.
Not in so far as you persisted in your writing about your love, despite my pleas for you not to do so.
It's true. I couldn't find the strength to obey you.
You claim to think there's some connection between what you call love and happiness. I can't believe that there is.
In these circumstances, I agree when the love is unrequited.
As it must be. You know it's impossible for me to reciprocate your feelings, and even if I did, it could only cause me suffering without making you any happier.
But what else could I have written to you about other than my love? What else is there? I believe I've done everything you've asked of me.
You've done nothing of the sort.
I left here when you wanted me to.
And you came back. I've offered you my friendship, monsieur. It's the only thing I can give you. Why can't you accept that?
I could pretend to, but that would be dishonest.
You're not answering my question.
The man I used to be would have been content with friendship and set about trying to turn it to his advantage. But I've changed now, and I can't conceal from you that I love you tenderly, passionately, and above all, respectively. So how am I to demote myself to the tepid position of friend?
At this moment, Madame de Tourvel decides to leave the room and finds the way blocked.
And in any case, you're no longer even pretending to show friendship.
What do you mean?
Well, is this friendly?
You can hardly expect me to stay here and listen to the expression of sentiments you know very well I can only find insulting.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I know you can bestow on me nothing more than your friendship, for the which, by the way, I am profoundly grateful. In the same way, I can feel nothing less for you than love. We both know this is the true position. Can't we simply acknowledge it? I don't see why recognition of the truth should lose your friendship. Openness and honesty scarcely deserve to be punished. Don't you agree?
You are adept, monsieur, at framing questions which preclude the answer no. Your honesty or otherwise is not an issue. The point is surely that I was weak enough to be persuaded to grant you a favor you should never have obtained. And furthermore, I did this under certain conditions, not a single one of which you have observed. Naturally, I feel you've exploited my good faith.
What can I say to reassure you? How can you be afraid of me when, because I love you, your happiness is far more important to me than my own. You've made me a better person. You mustn't now undo all your handiwork.
I've no wish to, but I must ask whether you're going to leave this room or let me pass.
But why?
Because I find this conversation distressing. I can't seem to make you understand what I mean, and I've no wish to hear what you invariably get round to saying.
Very well. I shall leave you in possession of the field.
Thank you.
But look, I shall expedite my business as you ask, but we are to be living under the same roof for at least a few days. Could we not contrive to tolerate it when fate throws us together? Surely we don't have to avoid each other.
Of course not. Providing you adhere to my few simple rules.
I shall obey you in this as in everything. I wish you knew me well enough to recognize how much you've changed me. My friends in Paris remarked upon it at once. I've become the soul of consideration, charitable, conscientious, more celibate than a monk.
More celibate?
Well, you know the stories one hears in Paris. It's all due to your influence. I have to thank you for it. And now, good evening.
He bows deep, begins moving toward the door.
Monsieur...
What?
Nothing.
Valmont turns away. Madame de Tourvel stands for a long time, not moving, locked in some personal struggle. Scene 6. A fortnight later, the middle of the night. Cecile's bedroom in the chateau. Cecile is fast asleep. There's the sound of a key in the lock. Valmont lets himself in quietly into the room. He's wearing a dressing gown and carrying a dark lantern. He puts the lantern down carefully, leans forward, and very gently eases back the covers. Disturbed, she stirs, but still doesn't wake. Valmont puts a hand across her mouth. Her eyes open, wide. Valmont smiles.
Nothing to worry about.
Have you brought a letter?
No. Oh, no.
Then what?
He leans over to kiss her. There's a brief, fierce struggle. Cecile defends herself from the kiss. Valmont plunges a hand up inside her nightdress. Her cry is instantly stifled as Valmont's other hand clamps down on her mouth. She writhes, succeeds in freeing her head, and dives across the bed to reach for the bell pull. Valmont dives, grasping her wrist just in time. They grapple fiercely until he manages to subdue her.
You mustn't do that. What are you going to tell your mother when she arrives? How will you explain the fact that I have your key? If I tell her I'm here at your invitation, I have a feeling she'll believe me.
What do you want?
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
No, please. Don't. Please.
All right. I just want you to give me A kiss.
A kiss?
That's all.
And then you will go?
Then I'll go.
Promise.
Whatever you say.
All right.
Valmont leans over the bed and gives her a long kiss.
Mm,
All right?
very nice.
No, I mean, will you go now?
Oh, I don't think so.
But you promised.
I promised to go when you gave me a kiss. You didn't give me a kiss. I gave you a kiss. Not the same thing at all.
And if I give you a kiss?
That's what I said.
You really promise?
Let's just get ourselves more comfortable, shall we?
Do you?
He replaces his hand.
Please don't do that.
I'll take it away after the kiss.
Promise.
Yes, yes.
Swear.
I swear. Now, put your arms around me.
Cecile gives him a long, surprisingly intense kiss. Suddenly she pulls away from him, her eyes now wide with amazement. Valmont's hand comes slowly up from under the cover.
See? I told you I'd take away my hand.
Scene 7. It's the following day, 1 October. Madame de Rosamond's chateau. Cecile appears, arm in arm with Madame de Merteuil, who seems almost to be supporting her. Cecile looks exhausted.
My dear, I really can't help you unless you tell me what's troubling you.
I can't. I just can't.
I thought we'd agreed not to keep any secrets from one another.
So unhappy. Oh.
Merteuil takes her in her arms.
Everything's gone wrong since the day Maman found Danceny letters.
Yes, that was very stupid of you. How could you have let that happen?
Someone must have told her. She went straight to my bureau and opened the drawer I was keeping them in.
Who could have done such a thing?
It must have been my chambermaid.
Or your confessor, perhaps?
Oh, no, surely not.
You can't always trust those people, my dear.
That's terrible.
But today, what is the matter?
You'll be angry with me.
Are you sure you don't want me to be angry with you? Come along.
I don't know how to speak the words.
Perhaps I am beginning to get angry.
Last night,
Yes?
so that we could exchange letters to and from Danceny without arousing suspicion, I gave Monsieur de Valmont the key to my bedroom.
Yes.
And last night he used it. I thought he'd just come to bring me a letter, but he hadn't. And by the time I realized what he had come for, it was too late to stop him.
This time, Merteuil doesn't take her in her arms.
You mean to tell me you're upset because Monsieur de Valmont has taught you something you've undoubtedly been dying to learn?
What?
And am I to understand that what generally brings a girl to her senses has deprived you of yours?
I thought you'd be horrified.
Tell me, you resisted him, did you?
Of course I did. As much as I could.
But he forced you?
It wasn't that exactly, but I found it almost impossible to defend myself.
Why was that? Did he tie you up?
No. But he has a way of putting things. You just can't think of an answer.
Not even no?
I kept saying no all the time, but somehow that wasn't what I was doing. And in the end...
Yes?
I told him he could come back tonight. I'm so ashamed.
You'll find the shame is like the pain. You only feel it once.
This morning, it was terrible. As soon as I saw Maman, I couldn't help it. I burst into tears.
I'm surprised you missed the opportunity to bring the whole thing to a rousing climax by confessing all. You wouldn't be worrying about tonight if you'd done that. You'd be packing your bags for the convent.
What am I going to do?
You really want my advice?
Please.
Allow Monsieur de Valmont to continue your instruction. Convince your mother you have forgotten Danceny and raise no objection to the marriage.
With Monsieur de Jacquot?
When it comes to marriage, one man is as good as the next, and even the least accommodating is less trouble than a mother.
But what about Danceny?
He seems patient enough. And once you're married, you should be able to see him without undue difficulty.
I thought you said to me once, I'm sure you did, one evening at the opera, that once I was married, I would have to be faithful to my husband.
Your mind must have been wandering. You must have been listening to the opera.
So are you saying I'm going to have to do that with 3 different men?
I'm saying, you stupid little girl, that provided you take a few elementary precautions, you can do it or not with as many men as you like, as often as you like, in as many different ways as you like. Our sex has few enough advantages. You may as well make the most of those you have. Now here comes your mamma. So remember what I've said, and above all, no more snivelling.
Yes, madame.
Madame de Volanges is upon them.
Oh, how are you feeling now, my dear?
Oh, much better. Thank you, Mama.
You look so tired. I think you should go to bed.
No, really,
I think you should do as your mother suggests. We can arrange for something to be brought to your room. I'm sure it would do you good.
Well, perhaps you're right, madame.
I'll come up and see you later on.
But Cecile makes a demure exit.
You have such a very good influence on her.
I like to think so. But what do you suppose is the matter?
Didn't she tell you?
No, we merely spoke of how she was enjoying the country.
That makes me even more certain of the cause of her unhappiness. She's pining for that young man. I'm afraid it's beginning to affect her health.
Do you think so?
This morning, I simply asked her how she slept, and she threw herself into my arms and cried and cried. My dear, I'd be very grateful if you would allow me to discuss this with you seriously. I've been brooding about it all day, and now I really feel I need your advice.
Dear friend, please, I'd be proud to think I could be of any help to you.
Well, I've been reconsidering. I really think perhaps I should break off Cecile's engagement with Monsieur de Jacquot. He's no doubt a better match than Danceny, but the family, after all, is not decisively superior. Danceny is not rich, of course, but I dare say Cecile is rich enough for both of them. And the most important thing is that they love each other. Don't you agree? You think I'm wrong?
I have every confidence that your eventual decision will be the right one. If I were able to take a more objective view of the situation, it would only be because, in this case, I'm not affected by the altogether praiseworthy emotion of maternal love.
Please go on. I do rely on your judgment.
Well, it seems to me a question of distinguishing what's correct from what's pleasurable. To say this young man is entitled to your daughter just because of his passion for her is a little like saying a thief is entitled to your money. I'm not at all sure how appropriate an emotion love is, particularly within marriage. I believe friendship, trust, and mutual respect are infinitely more important.
And you don't approve of Danceny?
There's no denying that as suitors, there can be no comparison between them. I know money isn't everything, but will 60,000 a year really be sufficient to maintain the kind of establishment Cecile will be obliged to run, even as Madame Danceny? Of course, I wouldn't dream of suggesting in any way that Danceny has allowed himself to be influenced by financial consideration.
But
precisely. But as I say, this is only an opinion. Naturally, it's your decision.
yes,
Perhaps you ought not to take it on the strength of a single outburst, which might have any number of, well, medical explanations, for example.
perhaps you're right.
In any event, I hope we can discuss it further when we're all back in Paris.
Valmont has entered the room. He bows.
Madame?
If you'll excuse me, monsieur, I must go and make arrangements for some supper to be taken up to my daughter.
Oh, is she indisposed?
For the moment.
The young have such miraculous powers of recuperation. I'm sure she'll soon be back in the saddle. Tell her I hope so, at least.
Thank you, monsieur.
She leaves the room briskly.
You see, she can hardly bear to be in the same room with me.
But I gather you've had your revenge. Well done.
So you know.
Oh, the little one could hardly wait to tell me.
A favorable report, I trust.
On the contrary, Vicomte. If I hadn't spoken to her sharply, I think on your next visit you'd have found her door bolted as well as locked.
You surprise me. I was malicious enough to use no more strength than could easily be resisted.
Yes, still, for some reason, she seems to think it was rather an underhand approach.
I've been postponing it, to tell you the truth, but when I heard you were expected today, I wanted to be able to afford you some amusement at least.
It's just as well I did decide to look in, because as it turns out, your initiative came within an ace of sabotaging our whole plan.
What do you mean?
Madame de Volanges was so concerned about Cecile's appearance this morning, she resolved to allow her to marry Danceny after all.
No.
I think I've been able to talk her out of it. But the fact remains, you almost lost us our revenge on Gercourt.
I could hardly be expected to anticipate this sudden access of compassion. After all, to my knowledge, Mother Volanges has never shown it before.
I'm beginning to have my doubts about you, Vicomte. Do you really deserve your reputation? You see, the real reason I consented to spend a night at this lugubrious address was that I was hoping to be shown some tear-stained bit of paper.
Ah.
But I can only assume from what you've been saying that no such document exists.
No.
Probably just as well. No doubt you're exhausted after last night's exertions.
I think you know me better than that.
Well, I wonder. Can you account for this extraordinary dilatoriness?
Lugubrious or not, I haven't experienced a moment's boredom in all the weeks I've spent here. I appreciate you may have excellent reasons for your impatience, but you mustn't try to deprive me of my simple pleasures. I've explained to you before how much I enjoy watching the battle between love and virtue.
What concerns me is that you appear to enjoy watching it more than you used to enjoy winning it.
All in good time.
But this century is drawing to a close, Vicomte.
It's true that she resisted me for more than 2 months now, and that's very nearly a record, but I really don't want to hurry things. We go for a walk together almost every day, a little farther down the path that has no turning. She's accepted my love. I've accepted her friendship. We're both aware how little there is to choose between them. Her eyes are closing. Every step she tries to take away from the inevitable conclusion brings her a little nearer to it. Hopes, fears, and passions and suspense. Even if you were in the theater, what more could you ask?
An audience?
But you're my audience. And when Gercourt is married to Madame de Tourvel eventually collapses, we should tell everyone, shall we not? And the story will spread much faster than the plot of the latest play. And I have no doubt it will be received much better.
I hope you're right, Vicomte. I wish I could share your confidence.
I'm only sorry our agreement does not relate to the task you set me rather than the task I set myself.
I am grateful, of course. But that would have been almost insultingly simple. One does not applaud the tenor for clearing his throat.
You're right. How could one possibly compare them?
Madame de Rosamont comes into the room, followed by Madame de Tourvel.
I'm so delighted you could manage to visit us, my dear, even if only for such a short time.
I wish I could stay longer, Madame, but my husband's estate.
Do you know, I was thinking yesterday, it's more than 5 years since you were last here with your dear husband. Such a kind and such a vigorous man. Who could have imagined? Ah, well.
Mectoy has been watching Madame de Tourvel, and more particularly Valmont, who really is lost in contemplation of Madame de Tourvel.
Yes, Madame. There's no denying that life is frighteningly unpredictable.
Scene 8. 2 nights later, Valmont's bedroom in the chateau. Valmont appears escorting Cecile. They're both wearing dressing gowns.
Much the same as your room, you see, but here you'll be able to make as much noise as you like. And the mattress is a little harder.
Is that good?
Yes, that's very good.
Cecile throws off her dressing gown and jumps onto the bed.
Come on!
Valmont stretches out on the bed comfortably.
The first thing you must learn is there is no necessity whatsoever for haste.
He reaches out to caress her.
Now, as with every other science, the first principle is to make sure you call everything by its proper name.
I don't see why you have to talk at all.
Without the correct polite vocabulary, how can you indicate what you would like me to do or make me some sort of an offer of something I might find agreeable?
Surely you just say...
You see, if I do my work adequately, I would like to think you'll be able to surprise Monsieur Jericoeur on your wedding night.
Would he be pleased?
Well, of course, he'll merely assume your mamma has done her duty and fully briefed you.
Mama couldn't possibly talk about anything of the sort.
I can't think why. She was, after all, at one time, one of the most notorious young women in Paris.
Mama?
Certainly. More noted for her enthusiasm than her ability, if I remember rightly, but nonetheless renowned. There was a famous occasion, this was many years before you were born. This would have been when they went to stay with the Comtesse de Bellieu, who tactfully gave her a room between your father's and that of a Monsieur de Versailles, who was her acknowledged lover at the time. Yet, in spite of these careful arrangements, she contrived to spend the night with a third party.
I can't believe that. It's just gossip.
No, I assure you it's true.
How do you know?
That third party was myself. Well, we can return to that subject later, during the intervals. You asked me if Monsieur Jericoeur would be pleased with your abilities, and the answer is that even if he isn't, I don't believe it would be difficult to find others who would. Education is never a waste.
He reaches out and puts a hand round her head, drawing her to him.
Now, I think we might begin with 1 or 2 Latin terms.
Scene 9. Late the following evening, Madame de Tourvel lingers alone in the salon in the chateau. The card table is out, still scattered with cards. She starts, however, and moves briskly to the table to begin tidying away the cards as soon as Valmont appears in the doorway.
You're alone, madame.
The others have all decided on an early night. Mademoiselle de Volanges, in particular, seems to be quite exhausted.
I must admit to being rather tired myself. May I help you with these?
He reaches for some cards, brushing her hand in the process.
No, I'm sure the servants will.
She moves away.
I'm glad to have found you. I very much missed our walk today.
Yes.
I fear with the weather as it is, we can look forward to very few more of them.
This heavy rain is surely exceptional.
But in a week I shall have concluded my business.
I see.
I may, however, be unable to bring myself to leave.
Oh, please, you must.
Are you still so anxious to get rid of me?
You know the answer to that. I must rely on your integrity and generosity. I want to be able to be grateful to you.
Forgive me if I say I don't want your gratitude. Gratitude I can get from strangers. What I want from you is something altogether deeper.
I know God is punishing me for my pride. I was so certain nothing like this could ever happen to me.
Nothing like what?
I can't.
Do you mean love? If love what you mean.
He's beside her now and takes her hand.
Don't ask me. You promised not to speak of it.
I must know. I need this consolation at least.
Madame de Tourvel cannot bring herself to look at him.
I can't. Don't you see? It's impossible.
Of course I understand, but I don't want you to say anything. But I must know. I must know if you love me. Don't speak. You don't have to speak. I just want you to look at me. Just look. That's all I ask.
Madame de Tourvel raises her eyes to his.
Yes.
Valmont releases her hand. As he does so, she collapses sideways, obliging him to catch her. She sways in his arms for a moment, then comes to and jerks violently away from him. She rushes at Valmont, falls to her knees, and throws her arms round his legs.
For God's sake, you must leave me if you don't want to kill me. You must help. It's killing me.
Madame de Tourvel's sobs cease abruptly and give way to chattering teeth and almost epileptic convulsions. Valmont gathers her up in his arms and carries her over to the chaise longue. He leans forward to loosen her bodice. Something passes between them, and this time it's Valmont who looks away.
Adele!
He leaves the room.
Fetch, madam. Madame de Tourvel has been taken ill.
He hurries back into the room. Madame de Tourvel reaches a hand up towards him. He takes it between both of his. Madame de Rosamont appears. Valmont releases Madame de Tourvel's hand.
Oh,
She seemed to be having
my dear.
difficulty breathing.
Whatever is it?
It's all right. I'm all right now.
I shall leave you in her capable hands, Aunt. Send Adele for me if I can be of any further assistance.
We must send for the doctor, my dear.
No, please. I don't need a doctor. I'm perfectly all right now.
We mustn't take any chances.
No, I must talk to you for a moment. Come, sit by me. I can't speak very loud. What I have to say is too difficult. I have to leave this house first thing in the morning. I'm most desperately in love. To leave here is the last thing in the world I want to do, but I'd rather die than have to live with this guilt. I don't mind if I die. To live without him is going to be no life at all, but that's what I have to do. Can you understand what I'm saying?
Of course, my dear girl. None of this is any surprise to me. The only thing which might surprise one is how little the world changes. Of course, you must leave if you feel it's the right thing to do.
And what should I do then? What's your advice?
If I remember rightly, in such matters, all advice is useless. You can't speak to the patient in the grip of a fever. We must talk again when you're closer to recovery.
I've never been so unhappy.
I'm sorry to say this, but those who are most worthy of love are never made happy by it. You're too young to have understood that.
But why? Why should that be?
Do you still think that men love the way we do? No, men enjoy the happiness they feel. We can only enjoy the happiness we give. They are not capable of devoting themselves exclusively to one person. So to hope to be made happy by love is a certain cause of grief. I'm devoted to my nephew, but what is true of most men is doubly so of him.
And yet, he could have. Just now, he took pity on me. I saw it happen. I saw his decision not to take advantage of me.
If he has released you, my dear child, it's because your example over these last few weeks has genuinely affected him and improved him. If he's let you go, you must go.
I will. I will.
There. And even if you had given way, my dear girl, God knows how hard you struggled against it. There now.
She strokes her hair as the lights fade to black. End of Act 1. We will take a 5-minute break and resume at 8:40. Actors, please mute your microphones. Act 2, Scene 10, late October. The principal salon in Le Comte de Valmont's Paris hotel. Valmont sits at his desk writing. Assolon appears.
Well, what treasures do you have in store for me today?
A letter to Madame, your aunt, sir. And this one, which Julie managed to get before it was sealed up, to your Madame's confessor.
Ah, very good. This is excellent. I have a letter for Father Anselm myself. You may deliver it to them both when you leave.
Yes, sir.
And what news?
No visitors. She still hasn't been or had a single visitor since she got back from the country. Kept to her room. Bit of soup last night, but she didn't touch the pheasant. Afterwards, a cup of tea. Nothing else to report. Oh, yes, there is. You wanted to know what book she was reading, and she has 2 books at her bedside.
I don't suppose you found out what they were.
Course, I did, sir. What do you think? What do you take me for? One was Christian Thoughts, Volume 2, and the other was a novel written by an Englishman, Carissa.
Ah.
See, I was right, wasn't I, sir? There was no need for me to join her staff, now was there? I can find out everything you want to know. No trouble at all.
I just thought you might prefer to be paid 2 salaries, as at the time with the Duchess.
Oh, well, sir, the Madame the Duchess, that was quite different. I didn't mind that at all, but I couldn't manage a magistrate's livery. Now, sir, could I? Now, be fair. After being in your service.
Valmont opens a drawer and hands him a small bag of money.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You know, one day I'll be saving a bit like you recommended me, but for now, you know, I do like to do justice to you.
After letting Madame de Torvel leave my aunt's house without even managing to warn me, you're lucky to be working for anybody.
Okay, now we've been through that, sir, haven't we? Not even Julie knew she was going until she went.
Yes, how is Julie?
Oh, you know, seems a bit keener since moving to the country.
And yourself?
Yeah, talk about devotion to duty.
A footman shows Madame de Mercatoy and Danceny into the room.
Off you go. Keep it up.
Assolon bows and leaves.
Madame, my dear boy.
Thank you, monsieur, for everything.
I was afraid I'd been a terrible disappointment to you.
Of course, I'm disappointed not to see Cecile for more than a month, but I believe I have you to thank for keeping our love alive.
Oh, as to love, she thinks of little else.
I had so hoped you'd be able to arrange a meeting between us in the country.
Well, so had I. I made all the necessary arrangements, but she was adamant.
I know. She said in her last letter, you've been trying hard to persuade her.
I did what I could. In many respects, I found her very open to persuasion, but not, alas, on this issue.
Yes. She said I couldn't do no more myself than you've been doing on my behalf.
Oh, she's a most generous girl.
What else did she say?
She'd said she'd seen signs of a change of heart in her mother. Perhaps in the end, she'll come round to the idea of our marriage.
That would be wonderful.
Anyway, how is she? That's what I've really come round to ask you, monsieur.
Blooming. I really think the country air has done her good. I think she's even begun to fill in a little.
Really?
And of course, she sends you all her love. She and her mother will be returning to Paris in about a fortnight, by which time the situation should be resolved one way or another, and either way, she's longing to see you.
I don't know how I can bear to go another 2 weeks without seeing her.
We shall have to do our very best to provide some distraction for you.
Without your friendship and encouragement, I can't think what would have become of me.
My dear, if you'd be so kind as to wait in the carriage for a few minutes, there's a matter I must discuss with the Vicomte in private.
Of course. I don't know how I can ever repay you.
Don't give it another thought. It's been delightful.
Constantly leaves the room.
Poor boy. He's quite harmless.
Well, I must say, I thought Cecile's letter sounded unusually witty.
So I should hope so. I dictated it.
Oh, Vicomte, I do adore you.
I have a piece of news I hope you might find entertaining. I have reason to believe that the next head of the House of Gercourt might be a Valmont.
What do you mean?
Cecile is 2 weeks late. Aren't you pleased?
I'm not sure. You have rather overstepped your brief.
Providing they hold the wedding before the end of the year, I don't see what harm can come of it.
No, you're right. The situation does have possibilities. It just makes everything a good deal more chancy. You've used no precautions, then?
I've tried to give her a thorough grounding in all aspects of our subject, but in this one area, I'm afraid I may have misled her to some extent. Your aim was to revenge yourself on Gercourt. I provided him with a wife trained by me to perform quite naturally services you would hardly hesitate to request from a professional. And very likely pregnant as well. What more could you want?
All right, Vicomte. I agree. You've more than done your duty. Shame you let the other one slip through your fingers. I can only assume that's what happened.
I let her go. Can you imagine? I took pity on her. She was ready. The die was cast, the bill was paid, and I relented. And you know what? She vanished like a thief in the night.
Why did you let her escape?
I was moved.
Oh, well, then no wonder you bungled it.
I had no idea she was capable of being so devious.
Poor woman, what else could you expect? To surrender and not be taken? It would try the patience of a saint.
It won't happen again.
What you mean is you won't get the chance again.
Oh, yes, this time I have a foolproof plan.
What, another one?
Absolutely guaranteed.
Well,
I have an appointment to visit her at the house, on her house on Thursday, and this time I shall be merciless. I'm going to punish her.
I'm pleased to hear it.
Why do you suppose we only feel compelled to chase the ones who run away?
Immaturity?
I shan't have a moment's peace until it's over, you know? I love her, I hate her, I'm furious with her, my life's a misery. I've got to have it so that I can pass all these feelings onto her and be rid of them. Now, tell me what's happening in your life.
Belroche is about to fall by the wayside.
But this is excellent.
I have smothered him with so much affection, the poor man can hardly stand up. He's desperately trying to devise some graceful exit.
Long overdue, in my opinion.
And his successor has already been marked out.
Oh? Who's the lucky man?
I'm not sure I care to tell you just at the moment.
Oh. Well, in that case, I shall have to conceal from you the details of my foolproof plan.
That seems an acceptable enough bargain.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I think I may have kept our young friend waiting long enough.
I shall call on you sometime after Thursday.
Only if you succeed, Vicomte. I'm not sure I could face another catalogue of incompetence.
Oh, I shall succeed.
I hope so. Once upon a time, you were a man to be reckoned with.
He makes to embrace her, but she limits herself to delivering a frosty peck on the cheek. Scene 11. 6 o'clock in the evening, a couple of days later. The salon in Madame de Tourvel's house. Madame de Tourvel sits in an armchair. Valmont is shown in. Valmont crosses the room to hand Madame de Tourvel a packet of letters.
I understand Father Anselm has explained to you the reasons for my visit.
Yes. He said you wished to be reconciled with me before beginning instruction with him.
That's right.
But I see no need for formal reconciliation.
No? When I have, as you said, insulted you, and when you have treated me with unqualified contempt.
Contempt? What do you mean?
You run away from my aunt's house in the middle of the night. You refuse to answer or even receive my letters. And all this after I have shown a restraint of which I think we are both aware. I would call that, at the very least, contempt.
I'm sure you understand me better than you pretend, monsieur. It seems to me by far the most...
Forgive me, I didn't come here to trade reproaches. You know your virtue has made as deep an impression on my soul as your beauty has on my heart. I suppose I imagine that made me worthy of you. What has happened is probably a just punishment for my presumption. My life has had no value since you refused to make it beautiful. All I wanted from this meeting, madame, was your forgiveness for the wrongs you think I have done you, so I can at least end my days in some peace of mind.
But you won't understand. I couldn't do what you wanted. My duty wouldn't allow me to...
It was me you ran away from, wasn't it?
I had to leave.
And do you have to keep away from me?
I do.
Forever?
I must.
Well, I think you'll find your wish that we be separated will succeed beyond your wildest dreams.
Your decision is to...
The function of my despair, I am as unhappy as you could ever have wanted me to be.
I've only ever wanted your happiness.
Valmont moves swiftly to her and buries his face in her lap.
How can I be happy without you?
Madame de Tourvel allows her hand to rest for a few seconds on Valmont's head. Then, as she
I
removes
must
it,
have you or die.
Madame de Tourvel scrambles to her feet and retreats across the room.
Death it is. I'm sorry. I wanted to live for your happiness, and I destroyed it. Now I want to give you back your peace of mind, and I destroy that too. I am not used to passion. I can't deal with it. At least this is the last time, so be calm.
It's difficult when you are in this state, monsieur.
Yes, well, don't worry. It won't last very long.
He picks up the packet of letters.
These are the only things which might weaken my courage, these deceitful pledges of your friendship. They were all that reconciled me to life.
I understood you wanted to return them to me, and that you now approved of the choice my duty has compelled me to make.
Yes, and your choices determine mine.
Which is what?
The only choice capable of putting an end to my suffering.
What do you mean?
Listen, I love you. You've no idea how much. Remember, I've made far more difficult sacrifices than the one I'm about to make. Now, goodbye.
No.
Let me go.
You must listen to me.
I have to go.
No.
She collapses into his arms. He begins to kiss her, and she responds. Then he sweeps her up in his arms, carries her across the room, sets her down gently on the ottoman. She bursts into tears, clutches onto him as if she's drowning.
Why should you be so upset by the idea of making me happy?
Yes. You're right. I can't live either unless I make you happy. So I promise. No more refusals and no more regrets.
She kisses him. He begins, slowly, to undress her. Scene 12. The following evening, Mectoy's salon. Valmont bursts into the room.
Success! Success!
At last.
But worth waiting for.
So it worked, your foolproof plan?
Of course it wasn't foolproof. I was exaggerating to cheer myself up, but I did prepare the groundwork as carefully as I could. And I must say, Considering these last few weeks, my letters were all returned unopened, or rather my letter, since I kept replacing it in every other day in a fresh envelope, the result has been a genuine triumph.
And the plan?
I discovered, by intercepting her correspondence in the usual way, that she had very wisely decided to change her confidant and was pouring out all her inmost thoughts to my aunt. So very subtly, and aided by the fact that I looked terminally exhausted as a result of my exertion with Cecile, I began to hint to my aunt that I was losing the will to live, knowing that this would be passed on. At the same time, I began corresponding with her confessor, an amiable, dim-witted Cistercian, whom I more or less forced to arrange the meeting with her in return for the privilege of being allowed to save my soul. A privilege he will now, poor man, be obliged to forego. So the threat of suicide and the promise of reform.
I'm afraid I can't say I find that very original.
Effective, though.
Tell me about it.
Well, I arrived about 6.
Yes, I think you may omit the details of the seduction. They're never very enlivening. Just describe the event itself.
It was unprecedented.
Really?
It had a kind of charm I don't think I've ever experienced before. Once she'd surrendered, she behaved with perfect candor. Total mutual delirium, which for the first time ever with me outlasted the pleasure itself. It was astonishing. So much so that I ended by falling on my knees and pledging her eternal love. And you know, at the time, and for several hours afterwards, I actually meant it.
I see.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Is it? It sounds to me perfectly commonplace.
No, I assure you. But of course, the best thing about it is that I am now in a position to claim my reward.
You mean to say you persuaded her to write a letter as well in the course of this awesome encounter?
Oh, no, I didn't necessarily think you were going to be a stickler for formalities.
You know, Vicomte, even if you had arrived with a letter up your sleeve, I'm not sure I wouldn't have had to declare our arrangement null and void.
What do you mean?
I'm not accustomed to being taken for granted.
But there's no question of that, my dear. You mustn't misunderstand me. What in another case might be taken for presumption between us can surely be accepted as a sign of our friendship and confidence in each other, can't it?
I've no wish to tear you away from the arms of someone so astonishing.
We've always been frank with one another.
And as a matter of fact, I have also taken a new lover who at the moment is proving more than satisfactory.
Oh, and who is that?
I'm not in the mood for confidences this evening. Don't let me keep you.
You can't seriously imagine there's a woman in the world I could ever prefer to you.
No, I'm sure you're quite willing to accept me as an addition to your harem.
No, you misinterpreted. What you think is vanity, taking you for granted, it's really only eagerness. I'd sacrifice anything or anybody to you, you know that.
All right, Vicomte. Let's try to discuss this calmly, shall we? Like friends.
By all means.
There's a strange thing about pleasure, haven't you noticed? It's the only thing that brings the sexes together. And yet it's not sufficient in itself to form the basis of a relationship. You see, unless there's some element of love involved, pleasure must lead directly to disgust.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Now, fortunately, it's only necessary for this love to exist on one side. The partner who feels it naturally is the happier, while the partner who doesn't is to some extent compensated by the pleasures of deceit.
I don't think I see your point.
My point, Vicomte, is that you and I can in no way conform to this essential pattern. And we may as well admit it. Card sharps sit at separate tables.
Yes, and then they compare notes.
Maybe, but without, I think, dealing a new hand.
I can't entirely accept the analogy.
Don't worry. I shan't go back on our agreement. I have to go away for a couple of weeks.
What for?
A private matter.
There was a time you kept no secrets from me.
Don't you want me to finish what I was saying?
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry.
When I've returned, and on receipt of this famous letter, you and I will spend a single night together. I'm sure we shall find it quite sufficient. We shall enjoy it enough to regret that it's to be our last. But then we shall remember that regret is an essential component of happiness, and part the best of friends.
I think we should take it one step at a time, don't you?
No, I think we should be under no illusions.
You see, I don't think I've ever been unfaithful to you.
You know, Vicomte, instead of trying to work on me in this, let's be frank, mechanical fashion, you should be thanking me.
Whatever for?
My courage, my stout resistance, my clear-sightedness. I understand, you see, what's going on.
Well, that's more than I can claim.
I know. You may genuinely be unaware of this, but I can see quite plainly that you're in love with this woman.
No, you're wrong, not at all.
Have you forgotten what it's like to make a woman happy and to be made happy yourself?
Of course not.
We loved one another, didn't we? I think it was love. And you made me very happy.
And I could again. We just untied the knot. It was never broken. It was nothing but a temporary failure of the imagination.
No. There would have to be sacrifices you couldn't make and I wouldn't deserve.
But I told you any sacrifice you asked.
Illusions, of course, are by their nature sweet.
I have no illusions. I lost them on my travels. Now I want to come home. As for this present infatuation, it won't last, but for the moment it's beyond my control.
You'll be the first to know when I return.
Make it soon. I want it to be very soon.
He kisses her. She seems on the point of submitting, but then she breaks away abruptly.
Goodbye.
Valmont bows and hurries from the room. McToy crosses the room and opens a door.
He's gone.
Johnson steps into the room.
I thought he'd be here all night. Time has no logic when I'm not with you. An hour is like a century.
We shall get on a good deal better if you make a concerted effort not to sound like the latest novel.
I'm sorry,
Never mind. Take me upstairs.
Scene 13. A fortnight later, afternoon. The salon in Valmont's house. Valmont is pouring another glass of champagne for Emily, when its footman enters the room and murmurs something in his ear, gives some instructions, and as the footman hurries out...
Drink up.
What is it?
Someone who might not well appreciate your presence here.
Oh, you mean a woman?
A lady, we might even say.
Oh, well then.
She tosses back her champagne and rises to her feet.
Not the one you wrote the letter to.
The very one.
I enjoyed that.
And you proved a most talented desk.
I'd love to see what she looks like.
Well, you can't. On second thoughts, I don't see why you shouldn't.
Ooh,
As long as there's no bad behavior.
never, unless required.
Where's your Dutchman?
It's safe in Holland, far as I know.
And you have an appointment for tonight?
Few friends for dinner.
And after dinner?
Nothing firm.
Valmont crosses to his desk, takes out a small bag of money.
Well, perhaps I shall call on you later.
He hands her the money, just as the footman is showing in Madame de Tourvel.
I'll be there.
Well, this is an unexpected pleasure.
Evidently.
Take no notice of Emily. She's notoriously eccentric.
I know that woman.
Are you sure? I'd be surprised.
She's been pointed out to me at the opera.
Ah, well, yes, she is striking.
She's a courtesan, isn't she?
I suppose, in a manner of speaking.
Madame de Tourvel makes to hurry out of the room. Valmont catches her arm.
Let me go.
But what's got into you?
I'm sorry I've disturbed you.
Of course you haven't disturbed me. I'm overjoyed to see you.
Please let me go now.
No, I can't. This is absurd.
Let go.
No, wait a minute. It never occurred to me you'd assume that. Look, you must let me explain.
No.
Let's sit down calmly.
And you will never be received at my house again.
Now.
He's pinioning her in his arms.
Now listen.
I don't want your lies and excuses.
Just listen to me. Just hear me out. That's all I ask. Then you can judge.
I don't want to.
Have a glass of champagne.
No.
Unfortunately, I cannot unlive the years I lived before I met you. And as I've explained to you before, during those years, I had a wide acquaintance, the majority of whom were no doubt undesirable in one respect or another. Now, it may surprise you to know that Emily, in common with many others of her profession and character, is kind-hearted enough to take an interest in those less fortunate than herself. She has, in short, the free time and the inclination to do a great deal of charity work. Donations to hospitals, soup for the poor, protection for animals, anything which touches a sentimental heart. From time to time, I make a small contribution to her purse. That's all.
Is that true?
My relations with Emily have been for some years now quite blameless. She's even done a little secretarial work for me on occasion. Since I know your feelings on the matter, I shall, of course, take steps to make sure she is never received here again.
Why did she laugh?
I've no idea. Malice, perhaps. Jealousy. Girls of that class are often unpredictable. I'm at a loss to explain it.
Well, does she know about me?
No doubt she made what, in view of my past, must be accepted as a fair assumption.
I want to believe you.
I knew you were coming up. You were announced. Do you seriously imagine if I'd felt the slightest guilt about Emily, I would have allowed you to see her here?
I suppose not.
No.
I'm sorry.
No. It's I who must apologize. It was most insensitive of me. Some relics of my old persona remain. That was the thoughtless action of a man who had never met you.
She buries her face in Valmont's chest.
I didn't think it was possible for me to love you more, but your jealousy.
I love you so much.
He is disarmed by her sincerity. Suddenly no longer in command of his emotions. His expression is pained and uncharacteristically tender. Scene 14. 10 days later, evening. Madame de Mectoy's salon. Danceny lies on the sofa with his head in Mectoy's lap. She plays idly with his hair. Valmont appears in the doorway. He assesses the scene and then clears his throat, causing Danceny to shoot upwards in confusion.
Your porter appears to be under the impression that you are still out of town.
I have, in fact, only just returned.
Without attracting the attention of your porter? I think it may be time to review your domestic arrangements.
I'm exhausted from the journey. Naturally, I instructed my porter to inform casual callers that I was out.
And here you are as well, my young friend. The porter would appear to be having a somewhat erratic evening.
Oh, well, yes.
I'm glad to find you. I've been trying to contact you for some days.
Have you?
Mademoiselle Cecile returns to Paris after an absence of 2 months. What do you suppose is uppermost in her mind? Answer, of course, the longed-for reunion with her beloved Chevalier.
Vicomte, this is no time to make mischief.
Nothing could be further from my mind, madame.
Go on.
Imagine her distress and alarm when her loved one is apparently nowhere to be found. I had to do more improvising than an Italian actor.
But how is she? Is she all right?
Oh, yes. Well, no, to be quite frank with you, I'm sorry to tell you she's been ill.
Ill?
Whether it was brought on by her anxieties, it's impossible to say, but it seems about a week ago they were compelled to send for the surgeon in the middle of the night, and for a while he was very concerned.
But this is terrible.
Calm yourself, my friend. She has been declared well on the road to recovery, and she is convalescing now. But you can well imagine how desperate I've been to find you.
Of course. My God, how could I have not been here at such a time? How could I ever forgive myself?
But look, I hate to be the bearer of bad tidings. All is well now with Cecile, I assure you. I have it from the surgeon himself, and I shan't disturb you further. It's just that I had a letter, the contents of which I thought might be of interest to the Marquise.
I think perhaps I should spend a few minutes with the Vicomte on a private matter. Why don't you go upstairs? I shan't be long.
But I'm worried about Cecile.
I don't think there's anything to be done at this hour of the evening. You can send to inquire after her tomorrow.
Well, all right, if you say so.
I do.
I'm sorry, Vicomte.
Don't upset yourself, dear boy. Everything is as it should be.
Thank you. Thank you.
He leaves the room. Valmont hands McToy the letter.
I see she writes as badly as she dresses.
I think I'm right in saying that in this case, it's the content, not the style, which is the essential. But perhaps there's something else we should discuss first.
I do hope you're not going to be difficult about Danceny. It was a complete coincidence he arrived at the gates at the same moment as my carriage.
Really, my love, this is hardly worthy of you. Given the uncharacteristic mystery you made about the identity of your new lover and Danceny's and your simultaneous disappearances from Paris, I would have been a good deal stupider, even than you seem to assume I am, not to have reached the obvious conclusion. If Danceny and your carriage arrived at the gate at the same moment, I imagine the main reason was because he was in it.
You're quite right, of course.
And furthermore, I happen to know this moment for which we speak occurred 2 days ago.
Oh, your spies are efficient.
So much for my being the first to know when you've returned. A lesser man might allow himself to become angry.
Such a man might risk losing his ability to charm without necessarily enhancing his power to persuade.
I must say I'm not surprised you chose to be so reticent about your manifestly unsuitable lover.
My motive has nothing whatever to do with his suitability.
I mean, I know Belroche was pretty limp, but I think you could have found a livelier replacement than that mawkish schoolboy.
Mawkish or not, he's completely devoted to me, and I suspect better equipped to provide me with happiness and pleasure than you in your present mood.
I see.
So is it really true that the little one has been ill?
Not so much an illness, more of a refurbishment.
What can you mean?
Once she'd returned to Paris, some money for the porter and a few flowers for his wife were enough to enable me to resume my nocturnal visits, which, incidentally, don't you agree, shows up Danceny's initiative in a very poor light. However, the ease of it no doubt made us overconfident. One night last week, as we were resting after our exertions, the door, which we'd forgotten to lock, suddenly blew open. The most dreadful shock. Cecile threw herself out of bed and tried to jam herself between it and the wall. A sudden severe backache gave way to some unmistakable symptoms. After that, it was a real test of ingenuity getting the surgeon round without giving ourselves away.
But you evidently succeeded.
Can you imagine, my dear? It turned out Cecile wasn't even aware of being pregnant in the first place. She certainly doesn't devote any undue energy to thinking.
Well, Vicomte, I'm sorry about the loss of your son. And j'ai cause heir.
Oh, I thought you'd be pleased. You seemed notably disgruntled about it when I first told you.
Once I got used to the idea, I began to enjoy it. I think you should make another attempt, don't you?
I rather felt the moment had come to pass her on to young Donsony.
No, I am not sure that would be advisable just now.
Oh, you don't?
If I thought you would be your old, charming self, I might invite you to visit me one evening next week.
Really?
I still love you, you see, in spite of all your faults and my complaints.
I'm touched. What else will you exact before honoring your obligations?
I have a friend who became involved, as sometimes happens, with an entirely unsuitable woman. Whenever any of us pointed this out to him, he invariably made the same feeble reply. It's beyond my control, he would say. He was on the verge of becoming a laughingstock, at which point another friend of mine, a woman, decided to speak to him seriously, and most importantly, drew his attention to this linguistic foible, of which he'd previously been unaware, and told him his name was in danger of becoming ludicrously associated with this phrase for the rest of his life. So do you know what he did?
I feel sure you're about to tell me.
He went round to see his mistress and bluntly announced he was leaving her. As you might expect, she protested vociferously. But to everything she said, to every objection she made, he simply replied, "It's beyond my control."
Valmont rises.
I must leave you to your lessons.
Scene 15. The following afternoon. The salon in Madame de Tourvel's house. Her footman shows in Valmont. She runs over to him and buries herself in his arms. He embraces her almost involuntarily, bracing himself against what is to come.
You're only 5 minutes late, but I get so frightened. I become convinced I'm never going to see you again.
Valmont carefully disentangles himself and puts some distance between them before he speaks.
My angel.
Is it like that for you?
Oh, yes. At the moment, for example, I'm quite convinced I'm never going to see you again.
What?
I'm bored, you see. It's beyond my control.
What do you mean?
After all, it's been 4 months, so what I say, it's beyond my control.
Do you mean you don't love me anymore?
My love had great difficulty outlasting your virtue. It's beyond my control.
It's that woman, isn't it?
You're quite right. I have been deceiving you with Emily, among others. It's beyond my control.
Why are you doing this?
Perhaps your merciless vulnerability has driven me to it. Anyway, it's beyond my control.
I can't believe this is happening.
There's a woman, not Emily, another woman, a woman I adore. And I'm afraid she's insisting I give you up. It's beyond my control.
Suddenly, Madame de Tourvel rushes at him, fists flailing. They grapple silently and grimly for a moment.
Liar!
You're right. I am a liar. It's like your fidelity, a fact of life, no more or less irritating. Certainly it's beyond my control.
Stop it! Stop saying that!
Sorry, it's beyond my control. Why don't you take another lover? Just as you like, of course. It's beyond my control.
Do you want to kill me?
Valmont strides over to her, takes her by her hair, and jerks her head up, shocking her into a moment's silence.
Listen to me. You've given me great pleasure, but I just can't bring myself to regret leaving you. It's the way of the world. Quite beyond my control.
When he lets go of her hair, she collapses full length. Valmont crosses to the doorway and turns to look back at her. For a moment, it's almost as if he's going to run back to her, but abruptly he turns and guiltily scuttles away. Scene 16. About a week later, a December evening in Madame de Mectoy's salon. Mectoy sits at a small escritoire, writing. Valmont appears in the doorway.
Is that you? You're early.
Am I? I wanted to ask you, that story you told me, how did it end?
I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, once this friend of yours had taken the advice of his lady friend, did she take him back?
Am I to understand?
The day after our last meeting, I broke with Madame de Tourvel on the grounds that it was beyond my control.
You didn't.
I certainly did.
Seriously?
On my honor.
But how wonderful of you. I never thought you'd do it.
It seemed pointless to delay.
With the anticipated results?
She was prostrate when I left. I called back the following day.
You went back?
Yes, but she declined to receive me.
You don't say.
Subsequent inquiries I made established that she had withdrawn to a convent.
Indeed.
And she's still there. A rather fitting conclusion, really. It's as if she had been widowed. You kept telling me my reputation was in danger, but I think this may have well turned out to be my most famous exploit. I believe it sets a new standard. I think I could competently offer it as a challenge to any potential rival for my position. Only one thing could possibly bring me greater glory.
What's that?
To win her back.
You think you could?
I don't see why not.
I'll tell you why not. Because when one woman strikes at the heart of another, she seldom misses, and the wound is invariably fatal.
Is that so?
I'm so convinced it's so. I'm prepared to offer any odds you care to suggest against your success. You see, I'm also inclined to see this as one of my greatest triumphs.
There's nothing a woman enjoys as much as victory over another woman.
Except, you see, Vicomte, my victory wasn't over her.
Of course it was. What do you mean?
It was over you. That's what's so amusing. That's what's so genuinely delicious.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You love that woman, Vicomte. What's more, you still do, quite desperately. If you hadn't been so ashamed of it, how could you possibly have treated her so viciously? You couldn't bear even the vague possibility of being laughed at. And this has proved something I've always suspected, that vanity and happiness are incompatible.
Whatever may or may not be the truth of these philosophical speculations, the fact is, it's now your turn to make a sacrifice.
Is that right?
Johnson must go.
Where?
I've been more than patient about this little whim of yours, but enough is enough, and I really must insist you call a halt to it.
One of the reasons I never remarried, despite a quite bewildering range of offers, was the determination never again to be ordered around. I decided if I felt like telling a lie, I'd rather do it for fun than because I had no alternative. So I must ask you to adopt a less marital tone of voice.
She's ill, you know. I've made her ill for your sake. So the least you could do is get rid of that colorless youth.
I should have thought you've had enough of bullying women for the time being.
Right. I see I shall have to make myself very plain. I've come to spend the night. I shall not take it all kindly to being turned away.
I am sorry. I'm afraid I've made other arrangements.
I knew there was something I had to tell you. What with one thing and another, it had slipped my mind.
What?
Danceny isn't coming. Not tonight.
What do you mean? How do you know?
I know because I've arranged for him to spend the night with Cecile. Now I come to think of it, he did mention he was expected here. But when I put it to him that he really would have to make a choice, I must say he didn't hesitate for a second. I dictated a letter for Cecile to send to him as insurance, but as it turned out, it wasn't any need to be so cautious. He knew his mind.
And now I know yours.
He's coming to see you tomorrow to explain and to offer you, do I have this right? Yes, I think I do. His eternal friendship. As you said, he's completely devoted to you.
That's enough, Vicomte.
You're absolutely right. Shall we go up?
Shall we what?
Go up, unless you prefer this, if memory serves, rather purgatorial sofa.
I believe it's time you were going.
No, I don't think so. We made an arrangement. I really don't think I can allow myself to be taken advantage of a moment longer.
Remember, I am better at this than you are.
Perhaps, but it's always the best swimmers who drown. Now, yes or no? Up to you, of course. I wouldn't dream of trying to influence you. I therefore confine myself to remarking that a no will be regarded as a declaration of war. So, one single word is all that's required.
All right. War.
Scene 17. Dawn on a misty December morning in the Bois de Vincennes. On one side of the stage, Valmont and Asselin. On the other, Danceny and a manservant. Valmont is making his selection from a case of épées, held open to him by Asselin. Danceny, meanwhile, waits impatiently, épée in hand.
I know it was easy for you to make a fool of me when I trusted you. But out here, I think you'll find there's very little room for trickery.
I recommend you conserve your energy for the business at hand.
Asselin helps Le Vicomte off with his coat. Valmont and Danceny approach one another and take up the en garde position. At a sign from Asselin, the duel begins, fierce and determined. For some time, they're evenly matched, with Valmont looking the more dangerous. Then Danceny succeeds, more by luck than good judgment, in wounding Valmont in the arm. The duelists resume their en garde position and begin again. This time, it's Danceny who looks to have the initiative. For some reason, Valmont seems to have lost heart, and at one point, when the deflection of a too-committed attack by Danceny seems to leave him wide open, Valmont fails to take advantage of what looks like a golden opportunity. Eventually. Carelessness on Valmont's part allows Danceny through his guard with a thrust which enters Valmont's body, somewhere just below his heart. There's a moment of mutual shock, and then Danceny withdraws his sword, and Valmont staggers a couple of steps towards him. Asselin runs to get Valmont's coat.
I'm cold.
Asselin runs to get Valmont's coat.
Fetch a surgeon.
No.
Do as I say!
The manservant hurries away as Asselin manages to drape Valmont's coat around him.
A moment of your time.
Danceny reluctantly approaches.
2 things. A word of advice, which of course you may ignore, but it is honestly intended. And a request.
Go on.
The advice is this. Be careful of the Marquise de Merteuil.
You must permit me to treat with skepticism anything you have to say about her.
Nevertheless, I must tell you in this affair, both of us are her creatures.
And the request?
I want you to somehow get to see Madame de Tourvel.
I understand she's very ill.
That's why this is most important to me. I want you to tell her I can't explain why I broke with her as I did. But since then, my life has been worth nothing. I pushed the blade in deeper than you just have, my boy, and I want you to help me withdraw it. Tell her it's lucky for her that I have gone, and I am glad not to have to live without her. Tell her her love was the only real happiness I have ever known.
I will.
Thank you.
Danceny, suddenly overcome, puts a hand up to brush away a tear.
It's all very well doing that now.
Let him be. He had good cause. It's something I don't believe anyone's ever been able to say about me.
He raises a hand towards Danceny. He slumps back before Danceny can take his hand. He's dead. Scene 18. New Year's Eve. Once again, 3 ladies at cards in the salon of Madame de Merteuil's hotel. This time it's Merteuil herself, Madame de Volanges and Madame de Rosamond, the latter in mourning. Madame de Rosamond's turn, and she is looking away, lost in thought.
Madame.
Forgive me. At my age, it seems reasonable to hope to be spared any further personal tragedies. But 2, in the space of a few days?
Of course, Madame.
And I was just thinking, when you were last in Paris a year ago, do you remember that conversation we had? We were trying to decide who was the happiest and most amiable person we knew. And we both agreed it was Madame de Tourvel.
You were with her, were you not, when she died?
I was with her from the day that she ran away to the convent. I shall never forget those terrible sights when she kept ripping away at the bandages after they bled her. The delirium and the convulsions, how she wasted away. All the same, I think she might have recovered if that unfortunate young man hadn't somehow managed to let her know that the Vicomte, your nephew, was dead. After that, she simply lost the will to live. Apparently, as he was dying, the Vicomte managed to convince Danceny that Madame de Tourvel was the only woman he had ever loved.
That's enough. I think we should respect the sensibilities of our friend.
Oh, no. I firmly believe that was the truth.
Well, perhaps. I can't see how we shall ever know. And what news of your daughter?
She seems quite adamant. I've appealed to her and pleaded with her, but she won't budge. I did want to ask your advice about this, both of you. Monsieur de Jericourt is expected back any day now. Is there nothing to be done? Must I really break off such an advantageous match?
Oh, surely not.
I'm afraid you must.
But why?
I'd rather you didn't ask.
I think you must provide a reason, Madame, if you ask our friend to sacrifice so glorious a future.
To be honest with you, Madame, in spite of his crime, I'd rather marry Cecile to Danceny than see my only child become a nun.
As a matter of fact, I've heard from Danceny. He sent me a very strange letter. from Malta.
Oh, is that where he's run away to?
On second thoughts, my dear, I suppose it might be best to defer to Madame's wisdom and experience. Perhaps you should leave Cecile in the convent.
But there must be a reason.
This has been a terrible few weeks. But time passes so quickly. A new year tomorrow and more than halfway through the 80s already. I used to be afraid of growing old, but now I trust in God and accept. I dare say we would not be wrong to look forward to whatever the 90s may bring. Meanwhile, I suggest our best course is to continue with the game.
Her words seemed to exert a calming effect on her companions, and indeed, they resume playing. The atmosphere is serene. The lights fade, but just before they vanish, there appears on the back wall the unmistakable silhouette of the guillotine. End of play.
Everyone come back on. Well done, everyone.
Was fun.
Bravo, everyone. Bravo. Bravo. Bravissima. Duel.
They're such evil people.
Good death scene.
I think Valmont comes off all right in the end.
Yeah.
What was that, Todd?
So I think Valmont comes off all right in the end.
Yeah.
It's a little late, but you know. He did wait till the end. I mean, the very end.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Really superb. Thank you so much for your.
Well done.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, and thank you for the opportunity.
Well, we
Yeah.
have
For everyone who watched us.
Everybody.
we have 6 people watching, and I would
And this
invite
will,
their.
be available, this will also be, this has been recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel.
Yes, by virtue of the fact it was live on YouTube, it is recorded. So there is that. And those that are watching on YouTube can make comments in the chat if they so wish. Now I have to figure out, how do I stop?
I'm very happy you wanted to watch this.
It's going to record all of this.
Yay!
It's
never
just
have a cocktail.
So.
No, really well done. It's a you know, a tough grind with the words, and you guys really got it across. It was really well done, really illiterate, articulate, and powerful. So really good work.
Thank you, Mark.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you as well, because you tell a story. There's so much stage directions, and it's beautiful. You keep our story going throughout all of it.
With that they were on the one page and not flipping up to the
I
next
know.
page.
Sorry.
We all had to deal with
What
that.
that means, but yeah.
I do love your background, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is the background I wanted all of us to
Yeah.
have. I found that today, but alas, Zoom is not easy for everybody, and not all of us could. I couldn't get the background to work, so there we go. But that's what I wanted for everybody. Anyway.
Very good. For
All
our
right.
newcomers,
Well,
for Colby and Maggie and Luke,
Yes.
really, thank you so much for participating in this.
Thank you. You guys were brilliant.
You were really
Thank
great,
you.
So
and you
much.
made the play come alive in your scenes. And I encourage you to go ahead and send your resume and photograph to David Adam Gill, and you will be considered for future readings and labs, which we have an
Joining
abundance
our
of.
company.
There is
Thank you.
always opportunity to read scenes in our many labs and scene nights for David's playwriting classes, of which he teaches 3. So there's always lots to do, and I encourage you to follow through and make new ambassadors part of your life. So thank you very much for participating.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate your participation. Thanks.
Right,
Thank you.
should we stop being live now, Mark?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
probably.
Turn us off.
How do I do this? Oh my
Everybody go watch Blurring Boundaries.
I'm on Blurring Boundaries. Okay, I'm on.
Oh, yeah. Remember, yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can Hey, we've got new subscribers. That's really great. Oh, maybe all I have to do is sign out. Okay, there we go.
Do that.
Did that. We're done. We're off.
It still says live on mine.
Also live.
Still live.
Mine
Feel like
still
cold this
says
morning.
live on YouTube.
It does.